Does anyone have the agenda?
Right.
Document open. I'm taking notes.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Well, and also, do we have any agenda items? All
Cool.
right.
All
So
right.
hopefully, nice short meeting. No agenda items. So Keenan, sit down here.
Hold up. You're breaking up a little bit. I don't know if it's me or. I actually don't know where Sid is. Try to find out. Yeah. Let me get back to you on that. Yeah, just keep going.
No worries. All right, so let's start doing some status. Nick, how you doing?
I'm doing great. So I was EKS on call last week, so I didn't get anything done. But the week before, I had started implementation of the AWS CCM binary. So I'm hoping to carve out a few more hours this week to continue work on that. And I also was hoping to just ask you guys, I saw the pull request by DIMS support RBAC for Cloud Controller Manager for local cluster. And there was the talk about the RBAC roles for the clouds being pulled out of the API server. I was just wondering if, if somebody could give me some background on that, because I think that will be very important for us to understand.
Yeah, actually, I was going to propose that we actually have a discussion on that, either here or possibly in the channel. So today, all bootstrapping, everything that's required to bring up the master is generated by the API server at startup time to make sure it all happens. And I guess Jordan, who doesn't seem to be on the line, but Jordan has some concerns, and actually I think they're fairly valid concerns about
What if different cloud providers want to name them differently, or in fact, I know Red Hat has a desire to have more than just one, control manager in their control plane. So, how do we get a working control plane, and what if, different cloud providers want different systems? In the short term, my thought, and maybe we shouldn't try and just allow it to go for the short term, had been, let's just get it running. We're going to be living with the CCM as a common thing for about a year. Let's just go ahead and make that work. But Jordan's thing is, hey, let's find an actual proper solution. And I don't think that's a bad idea. The question then is how to do that. So the first proposal, and I don't know if it was Jordan's or Dim's, was to just go ahead and have a script that you could have per cloud provider that would just bootstrap the necessary RBAC rules for everything that's custom to that cloud provider. I personally don't like that. I grant it will solve the problem. My concern personally is that those sort of scripts end up having to be, we have a script for every one of the test infrastructures and for KubeMark and I get a little concerned that that's, when you need to go and make a change, how do you find all the places that need to be changed? And every one of these systems has a different, things are booted from manifest or make or Bazel or shell script. And so trying to track down where all of this stuff happens is a little bit of a nightmare. The nice thing about having the API server do it is, where that code lives, where it's executed, when it's executed, it's pretty clear. The problem, of course, is that we don't have a good dynamic loading system for libraries with Go. So in fact, one thing I was looking at this morning specifically on this issue was the idea of, since we have well-structured data, which we programmatically build to these RBAC rules of in the API server, what if we kind of did a merge of the two solutions? We deploy all the RBAC rules as a single YAML file in the control plane in a well-known location, and the API server, instead of just running kubectl, deploy, whatever, or put from various places. We just say, look, the API server is going to read the YAML file from a well-known location and create all the bootstrap.
So sort of like the pod manifest location.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Caleb had a comment.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you were thinking about kind of doing something similar to what the kubelet's doing with its dynamic kubelet config.
So yeah, so something along those veins. I mean, this is still kind of a half-baked idea, so I'm just throwing this out there for thoughts. I was planning on writing this up, and actually, and thank you for bringing this up, Nick. I was planning on bringing this up in the Slack channel and giving it a little time for people to read, but you know, given the intro, I'm happy to get on the soapbox and suggest it. But so does that answer your question?
Yeah, I would say my 2 cents are that we would definitely like a solution that allows us to configure the RBAC that is bootstrapped. So it sounds like yours would work for that. So I think that sounds good to us.
Cool.
SIG Test Infra also has a proposal to get rid of Bootstrap, and they had a proposal circulating. I don't know exactly the implementation details, but I've also asked them to share that on the Slack channel because they're actively working on eliminating all that cruft. Yeah.
Cool.
And you may want to add the talk about the RBAC profiles into the security implications parts of the original PEP, which is kind of.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely some security implications. Even I mean, one thing we have to consider, even with my solution or any solution that involves loading things from a YAML file on disk, is, you know, what opportunities are there to affect that YAML file, you know, before it gets loaded. You know, anything that's done programmatically. So obviously, we would definitely want to pass any solution we had past SIG security or SIG auth. Yeah. All right, cool. Anything else, Nick?
That's it.
Cool.
So, what is the status on the repos?
Another soapbox item. So I clearly made a mistake a couple of weeks ago and said, when asked by a couple of folks on the governance, could we wait 4 weeks? And I, at the time, thought we could. It's not clear to me that 4 weeks was, I meant it to be a hard 4 weeks. I'm not sure they took it that way. And I'm now regretting having said, yeah, we can wait 4 weeks. So yeah, that's my fault. I need to fix that.
And the repos for the existing in-tree providers, I think my understanding, at least from SIG architecture, was that you should be fine creating them in the Kubernetes org, because they were grandfathered in as such. Okay,
then maybe we really need to just push forward on that, because I think at this point, for some of the stuff I'm doing, I really wish we had one. I think there are a few other folks from GCE who do, and I'm fairly sure both Nick and Jace really wish we had these things in existence. Right. So
yeah, I can take the AI to send an email to SIG architecture and just double, or I guess triple check at this point.
Right, and I mean, I'd really like to see us start really making a real effort to sort of the less visible problems that I see coming up. How do we do pulling in the code? How do we track versions? How well can we integrate the testing and get the test reports going in both directions? I mean, there's a lot of these problems that I really want to do, and also how do we sync? Because I think there are going to be some interesting syncing problems until we really cut that code out of tree.
Yes, and we can talk about Git filter branch.
Exactly.
Offline, yeah.
Yeah.
It's mostly okay.
It's mostly okay, but I mean, what gets me on that one is that we know we're going to want to carry a few changes on that branch only, and then other things we're going to want to, yeah. Anyway, yeah, so great question. Sorry about the answer.
We'll hope to have a better answer by the end of the week.
Yeah, let's see if we can actually make some progress by next week. Daniel?
Yeah, so I don't really have an update since I did not really have time to work on anything the last 2 weeks. I also didn't attend the meetings, so yeah. But yeah, okay. Basically, the problem on which I'm having it still at the moment regarding the end-to-end tests is that we need a way to talk to the cloud on which the end-to-end tests are running. So I'm not sure if you remember, but the last time I gave my update, my issue was that in order to test the node controller, I basically need to create nodes on the underlying cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean basically I got it to work on our OpenStack cloud, but I think that we have a bigger issue here, because in order to test all the different cloud providers, you need some way to create nodes on all cloud providers, and I'm not sure if this is something that we want to have in the end-to-end tests.
So,
and I mean, it also goes into the topic you were already talking about, the issue that many end-to-end tests depend on GCE to run.
So the question is trying to find for the integration tests and end-to-end tests, how do we make sure we have nodes?
We have nodes.
And how do we get those nodes on each cloud provider under test?
I see.
Yeah.
I can find out.
I mean,
but basically, we have this resource manager called Boscos in Test Infra that actually does the node allocation. But I'll verify that as well.
And
So are you guys communicating with Daniel and Mithra?
Not directly.
Maybe we should fix that?
Yes.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, I'm Mithra. I'm also on the Slack channel, and Ben, the elder, who's on my team, is also on the Slack.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
It's usually the POC for.
I guess one question, I think there are kind of two issues that are at least separable out. So there's the reporting of the test results back up to test grid.
Yes.
And then there's the actual provisioning of the nodes required to run the tests. I think those could be separate problems. I think, and you may want to follow up with how Azure is doing this. And also Canonical is doing their example. CoreOS, we did this ourselves as well. But you just report up, you put the probably formatted XML in a bucket, and then that works. And if you already have a good way of provisioning nodes yourself on your own cloud or your own hardware resources, you're probably fine.
Yeah, but the thing is, how do we do this in a generalized way so that every cloud provider that wants to run the end-to-end tests can do it? That's the problem that I have.
Yeah, and I mean, certainly, I guess we've had some thoughts about how do you separate more of the bootstrapping from the actual tests. Like, I mean, I guess in my opinion, the framework should be pretty unopinionated about the actual cluster turnup. And should be focused on exercising the test cases there. So the uniformity comes from reporting all the results to the test grid, and you see that there. So that's the verification.
that's a verification. But also, I mean, and I think it's something you mentioned at the beginning, which is having something like an XML document or something that can act as an interface of what is the test scope we need to run. And I think that's going to be the key. We just need to have a well-defined interface for what does the test need and how to hand it over.
Right. My hobby horse has always been that you should not need more than a kube config.
Yeah.
Like that's how that's how production code works. So testing more than that's kind of silly.
And
off.
this provisioning stuff, etc. That's in test infra. Did I understand this correctly?
SIG testing is the SIG. And they also circulated a proposal already for cloud providers publishing results to test grid. And Ben was waiting for comments until end of week, and then he's going to start it.
Cool. Do you think you could share the links?
Our SIG.
Yes.
And that might be good thing to link in the CAP as well, so we can find it.
Sounds good.
Okay. So it would be cool if you could get some links in the Slack channel so I can look into it.
Yep.
I'll add it to the meeting notes as well.
Yeah, we'll put it in the meeting notes, but yeah, let's make sure we definitely put in
Or
Slack.
meeting notes is also fine. Okay.
And I also added the proposal about what they're doing with respect to Bootstrap into the meeting notes, and I'll circulate it on Slack as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, you good, Daniel?
Yeah, I'm good.
Rob?
No real updates from me.
All right. Keenan?
Nothing from me this week.
All right. Caleb, anything from you?
Nope.
Mithra?
Nothing else. Thank you.
All right. So not really too much interest to anyone else, but I took my old work in progress proof of concept of getting CCM running in GCE, and I've rebased it to try and work out what the current deltas is. It's actually one of the reasons I was looking at what Dims and Nick were looking at, is because that's one of the few non-Google specific items that clearly still need to be done to get CCM working in GCE. So I'm hoping to have that up and ready, and I'll circulate it again in the Slack channel once tests are all passing, just so that we're all, you know, I think it works well as sort of an item that you can see what it takes to get CCM running in the in-tree providers. I'm also interested if Nick ever gets one running to see if he catches anything I didn't. The other thing is, one thing I want to do this week, and I'm going to send out a note for, is all of the items that should be in cloud provider interface that aren't. I only know of one right now. There is a little bit of logic that sits in scheduler having to do with cloud provider specific limits for making certain decisions. That's not in the cloud provider interface anywhere, and I feel like it is sort of cloud provider specific logic, or at least data limits. So I'm going to do sometime later this week, I'm going to do a search through the tree, see if I can find anything else, and then I'll be publishing that to the Slack channel. Sounds good. Anyone have anything else?
Just I guess one thing, given that we had some difficulty getting this meeting going today, would anyone be opposed to having this, rather than being the personal meeting room, just like schedule a meeting in Zoom that can start and we just show up?
Works.
That's fine.
Sounds good to
All
me.
right, I'll go ahead and do that.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, bye everyone.